Hello, welcome to the second to last video for our commercial office building in Revit. First thing is I want to let you know that from here onwards I'm going to use Revit 2022 in order to work in the model. Since most of the students, if not all, are using Revit 2022, I want to make sure that you're going to have the same options as I have. The first order of business is going to be to lay out furniture on the first floor plan as well as the rooftop deck. In order to import different furniture elements, we're going to go into the insert area, then load Autodesk family. This is an alternative way for you to load families from the cloud. Obviously, you have to be connected to the internet in order to do so. Prior to Revit 2022, you had an option of going to load family and you had the library installed on your computer along with Revit. However, in 2022, as most of you have found out, you had to download the library separately in order to use the elements. However, since Revit 2021, you have an option of loading Autodesk families from the cloud. So let's click on this button, and here you can type in whatever description you want for an item to load. On D2L, you have a PDF that's called families. In that PDF, you have essentially a screenshot of every family that you need to use in your project. So if you make sure you pay attention to the words up top, here you can see I wrote Entourage and I picked RPC Beetle. So anything that is highlighted in blue and any description that I have right here, you need to copy. And once you clicked on that item, just go down the list and make sure you have everything imported. Make sure you load the item. One or two families or components of such nature will prompt you to have a bit more than one option. For instance, when you type desk and click on furniture systems, it will prompt another window and you need to pick the 72-inch by 30-inch desk and press OK. So go down the list and make sure you have all these families in your project. Occasionally the families may disappear or may not load. I have had this happen to me. So whenever you are trying to insert a family and you don't see it in your browser essentially, then you would need to do the same process again. In order to start inserting these families, you have one very simple option. You go to Architecture, click on Component, and all the things that you loaded from the cloud should be here already. For instance, the RPC Beetle is here already because it has been imported into the project. Another way to quickly start importing items into your project and laying them out is pressing CM, depending on what your shortcuts may be for the component family. So I press CM and I can start looking for the item that I need for that specific location. As you can see on the first floor furniture layout, there are no dimensions because everything is, in this case, would need to be eyeballed, but just try to pay attention to the things such as, for instance, these two cabinets or drawers are placed almost in the middle of between these two windows, right next to each other. This conference table with the chairs, it's all one family, is placed almost in the center of the room. Likewise, all of these cabinets right aligned to the edge of the wall, and so on and so forth. Just make sure you look at the PDFs closely. I will not be checking any specific inch dimension, but just make sure that it's going to be similar to what I have. If you go to the rooftop deck, you will see a similar layout. Again, it doesn't have specific dimensions, but you can eyeball and see which items line up and how far they are from each other. For instance, these planters are spaced out evenly. And the way you can easily do so is once you place one and you can roughly estimate the location, you can copy it. Again, and under the modify, you can use the copy. In my case, I assigned the CC shortcut for it. So I CC, and then I choose a distance. Let's say in this case, it's 5 feet and 6 inches. And when I click the multiple over here and unclick constrain, then I can copy this without making a lot of other clicks. So it will copy the same element multiple times. In order for you to know which families are needed where, you can see every single item that is placed on the rooftop deck sheet, as well as in the first floor layout sheet, as well as on the site sheet, is given a number, or essentially what is referred to as a keynote. In this case, this is just a text, but this keynote is referred to back to another PDF that is called keynotes. For instance, keynote number 1, on the left side of your model in the properties area, if you click on that item specifically, the cabinet file flat, the dimensions that you need to have for it are 40 by 3/8 of an inch by 29 and 3/8 of an inch, and level placed on first floor. For instance, let's go to this specific family. It's under the first floor. Let's click on number 1. So if you click on this family or this component, this is what you're going to see, which is essentially a screenshot of what I'm showing here. So this is going to help you make sure you pick the right size of the family for the right location. And every single item is labeled, so refer to this document for the size and the location. There's one item that you would need to create another type, and that is a tree. For instance, in this case, I wrote make another type of RPC tree, this one. Original is 10 feet, make one that is 5 feet. And the way you go about doing so is very simple. This is that type. Originally, you had it at Japanese maple 10 feet. In order to make it at 5 feet, you go to edit type, duplicate, change the name to 5 feet, and change the height to 5 feet as well. Press OK, and then you will have a smaller size tree, just like I have. Also, try to keep and pay attention to the location of some of these elements. For instance, this specific one is located on the rooftop deck level, elevation from level being 2 foot 6 inches, and offset from host 1 foot 5.5 inch. So make sure you have those items the same way that I have them. And again, all of them are labeled here as well for you. Once you laid out all the components, you will notice that there are also some components that are not present in the Autodesk Cloud. For instance, this parking space, is already inserted in the project itself. If you go to Massen and Site and click on Parking Component, you will see you already have 4 various types of parking spaces. The one you need is the 9 feet by 18 feet and 90-degree angle. And you simply place it according to the outline. As you can see, this one is placed right at the corner, and the next one is right next to it, and so on and so forth. Again, if it's not quite exactly the same way, that's fine, as long as it's close enough. There are also dimensions for these lines. These are not detail lines, these are model lines. And the difference between them is model lines are visible in every view, versus detail lines are visible only in the view that you're drawing. For example, the way you draw a detail line versus a model line. If you go to architecture, you can see there is a model line, or the shortcut is LI, and this is the one you want to use. These model lines, which are, you can essentially see that there is one square and another square. This would indicate a sidewalk in our case. One square is offset by 7 feet and 6 inches from the exterior wall, and another one offset by 3 feet. And each entrance is going to have another line going from one edge of the entry door to the other, just like I have it. And the line type you want to use is medium lines. Lastly, the only other thing that we're going to look into is if you go to the 3D view of your project, in case I already have it done, but you will notice that right around trees, there are those rectangular boxes right at the top and the bottom. The top one is called the header, and the bottom one is called the sill. Sill essentially helps you divert water from your window down the building, and the header above essentially allows you to divert the load from above the window around it so that the window is not going to incur any stress from above, any loads. Because if it will, it might crack, break, or suffer some damages. So in order to model something like this, we're actually going to get ourselves familiar with what is referred to as component, but model in place component. What it's usually used for is if there is not a model you can download from Autodesk website or somewhere else, and you want to represent something in a way that you feel like would be the best way to represent it. So in the 3D view, go to the cube and press on any of the elevations. In my case, I pressed on the front one. And for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to hide one of these so that you are not going to see them, but I'm going to recreate them in this case. So go to component, model in place. Here, you will be given a window. In this window, it will ask you for the category of family you want to create, because each one of them has different parameters. But we're going to pick generic model, since it's the one you should usually pick for all of your model in place components. Press OK. Name doesn't really matter. Press OK. And here you start seeing different buttons appear. Extrusion, blend, revolve, sweep, swept. All of these things help you design a 3D model of an object, versus a void form allows you to cut an object. If you hover over one of these, it will give you prompts and quick explanation as to what do they mean. The one we're going to use is the extrusion in this case only. Let's first set our work plane. And if you hover over it, you can see you can set your work plane to be at an angle or flat. In this case, we're going to set the work plane to be our elevation. So go to set, click on it, click pick a plane, and make sure whenever you select your wall, you will see an outline around windows, which says this is the wall that you're selecting. Press on it. It will not change, or anything else is not going to change, but you made this your specific work plane. Then click on extrusion, and at the extrusion, make sure to change the extrusion end to be 2 inches, and material, change it to concrete precast. Everything else should be the same. Now, over here, using the line, go to the top left corner of your window and offset it by 4 inches. And go 8 inches up. And go again from the place where you started drawing it, go to the other side of the window, press here and offset this by 4 inches as well. Go 8 inches up. You can also type, you don't have to necessarily use your mouse, but you can do it this way. So it's essentially what we're doing, we're offsetting this header to be 4 inches away from the corner and 8 inches up. And we're connecting it into a rectangle. Once you've done this, you can press finish edit mode, and you will see something like this. You're not yet completed with your model. You just created one item or one portion of the model. So then you want to copy this. I use my shortcuts. I copy it from the top line all the way down to the bottom of my window, the bottom portion right here. Once I've done this, I have 2 elements that are still not ready, but I'm making one component out of 2 elements. Once I'm done, once I created these 2 components, 2 inches extrusion end, 0 extrusion start, material concrete precast, I select both of them, press finish model. And you can save if needed. What it did, and I will show you in 3D view, I'll rotate my view, it essentially created a 2-inch offset from the face of my exterior wall. And now I can manipulate it by dragging it down to the sides or extrude it further here or there. But let's backtrack a little bit. The only thing I want to extrude, if I press on one of them, I want to extrude them into the wall so that it will appear as if it's actually a part of the wall. So if you click on one of the elements, the top or the bottom one, you can see there are blue arrows that appear. The one you want is the one that drags it inside of the wall. You don't have to drag it too far, as long as you can start seeing there is an outline that is missing. And do the same thing for the bottom portion. Drag it inside just a little bit. Once you've done this, you created a header and a sill. Now this is a very simplified version of those elements, but it's going to work for our visual representation of the building. Once you've done this, again, go to your cube in the 3D view, press on front or any other elevation that you were in, and now copy it in all of the windows. The way you can easily do so, again, using the shortcuts or a copy command, and go from a corner of a window to a corner of another window, just like this. Once you clicked on it, it will appear here as well. And just go around this elevation. Once you finish with this elevation, and let's say you want to try to move it to the other elevation, the easiest way would be click on one of these, again, the header or the sill, still in the 3D view, go to the top view, top right here, and this is what you will see. Now in this case, you need to use a mirror command. A mirror draw axis, in my case the shortcut is MI, in your case it may be something else. Click on it, go from the top, from the bottom corner of your building right here, and make sure you have a 45-degree angle that you're drawing inside of the building right here. This way you're going to mirror this item 45 degrees as if there is a line passing through, and you're reflecting it from one side to the other side. And if you go to that elevation right here, this is where you'll end up having your new header and new sill. It's already offset perfectly the same way as it was offset in the previous elevation. Repeat the same process for all of the windows. Do not worry about doors. Repeat that for all of the elevations. Once you finish with this portion of the project, the only thing that is left for us to do next time would be to lay out our sheets and our views and try to do some renderings. A quick preview on how we're going to do so. For instance, in this case, I'm still in the 3D view, and I changed my detail to be fine, and I changed my visual style to be realistic. Now what it will do, it will render the materials using the material library that Revit has. It's not a very good library, but it's going to give you a similar idea of what it might look like. Now this is a rendered look that Revit can produce. It's not the best. It's actually quite poorly done. However, it gives you some idea of what it may look like once all the materials are applied. You can see our ground is brown, our building is red, and our trees appear finally with something that looks like a tree. There you go. This is how we're going to create our rooftop building. This is how our building is supposed to look like. Thank you for watching.